I told you earlier that I'm going to start with today the vistas. For the supplementary reader, how we proceed, that's what I'm going to do. But then for a change, instead of going through my PPT, I would like to share today with you what I actually do with my children. Okay, the PPT that I give it to my children, that is what I'm going to show it to you. But as you would have already guessed by the words that I used yesterday, that for the third level, it's all about time travel, and it's in the genre of science fiction, popularly called the sci-fi. So I start over there with the word sci-fi, and 21st century children, they are very eager, they are very, very enthusiastic about it. So on that note, actually, I start. The first day, I never touch upon the book, I don't touch upon the video, I don't want to show anything. And this is a particular lesson where I find the children have loads of information and they are ready to share everything with us. So I stick on to that. Namaste, Principal Ma'am.
Namaste, ma'am. Namaste, ma'am.
Congratulations once again.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Congratulations. Ma'am, today for a change, I'm going through my PPT first, then I'll take you over there. So
Yes,
here
ma'am.
is the third level, and what I really try with them is that suppose we say the third level, then what will they arrive at? So for that, before I proceed anything, I have to actually give them, oh God, why is this creating problem? Yeah, the author's note, and he was a celebrated author on the genre of science fiction and time travel. So time travel, the third level is actually a collection of short stories. All these information, they are available in the Google itself. So we all know that they have been adapted and televised. Some have been tried to made into a movie. Then I take them through this because it is very difficult to convince them. Being little ones, I'm sure you all are familiar with this story. It's a non-conclusive story. It is open-ended story, as we generally say in a technical term. At the end of the story, we are not even sure about Valli ma'am and Anantaraman sir. You people are going to take it up for the first time. Are you aware of the storyline?
Storyline. No, madam.
No. What about Valli ma'am? Did you get time to go through it?
Madam, I can go, ma'am. I can go through that.
No, that's fine, sir. If you haven't, I would like to take you to this through the story first. Can I do that?
Yes, madam, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Valli ma'am,
Yes.
I'll take you through the story. Let me take it to this is the story. You're able to see this?
Yes, ma'am.
I'll read it. Jack Finney's story, the third level, alternates between fantasy and reality. The third level is a medium of escape for Charlie from the present harsh realities of modern life, which is full of insecurity, fear, war, worry, and tension. It is a safe route for Charlie to go to Galesburg in order to escape from trouble. Now, let me put you more into the context. It so happens that we are introduced to a commuter, a daily passenger, if you may like to call him. At the end of the day, instead of taking the bus, he decides to go through the subway, that is through the metro. Right? Now he wants to reach home. He's a typical, middle class man. He is eager to reach back. But then it so happens when he goes over to the New York station, over there, he knows, everybody knows that there are only two levels. But then he loses his way over there and he gets lost. But eventually he lands up in a not existent third level. In that non-existent third level, after reaching there, he is initially amazed by the very look of the railway station, because it is something which is very, very old, and the people there also are pretty old-fashioned. But being there, he cannot resist the temptation of going back into the time. And in order to ensure in which year is it, he goes closer to a newsstand and finds all the newspapers lying over there. And he manages to see the picture of an old president. He is now convinced that he is in the past. He's managed to go there. But you know, somewhere we all human beings have fond remembrances of our childhood when we were at our grandparents' residence. That was tension-free life. That was so idyllic a life. IDYLLIC. Now, this man, the moment he reaches into the past, he decides to go over and purchase a ticket to Galesburg. He takes out his currency and wants to buy it. But then the man over there says that it's not currency, because we all know that the currency notes, they keep on changing their shapes and forms over the years. And he realizes that it's not good to land up in a jail even in the past, so he comes back. Now, this he shares with his wife. Obviously, before this also, he had visited a psychiatrist who had called all his obsessions with the past as nothing but waking dream wish fulfillment. Waking dream, we all know. For the newcomers, I'm sure Vijay Lakshmi ma'am, you're aware of it. Malarveri ma'am, you're also aware of it.
Namaste, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, these two, I'm trying to put them into the story so that it will be useful for them. Now, what happens is that this waking dream, something which we dream with when we are quite awake, can never come true. Similarly, it's that wishful thinking of his that he has gone back into the past where there is no stress and strife, no tension, no other difficulties in life, because modern life is so full of tensions, worries, and all kinds of difficulties for the modern man. Now, this is what the psychiatrist had actually told. But surprisingly, by the end of the story, we are told that the psychiatrist Sam has disappeared. And that is not the only thing. Our Charlie, the protagonist, was actually a stamp collector. And among his collection, suddenly he finds one day the day one stamps, as we call it. And over there, he gets to see this new one, which Sam has written from 1894. You know, that's why the story, there's an important question over there. That here we get off an intersection of time and space. He is in the 20th century, our Charlie, but then by losing his way in the New York Central transport system, he lands up in 1894. But then when he is worried, when he has the fear that he'll be caught by the police, arrested and put behind the bars, he comes back again into 20th century. He's there in the 20th century, but he gets to know that his psychiatrist Sam has disappeared and gone into 1894. And that too, he sends a letter from there, which he receives in 20th century. Now, these are so very, you know, it's like a labyrinth, a maze over there. Children insist that because they are still kids and they love to weave stories, web stories with fantasy. So they continue to believe he has gone back in time. But for us, we call it, no, it's not going back into time, but this is a psychological aberration. The man is having serious psychological problems, and that's why he is hallucinating. So this story is so full of different kinds of perspectives, and necessarily, as I told you, at the end of the story, we really don't get to know what author actually feels. Whether he considers it to be really a psychological deviation on the part of Charlie, who's hallucinating, or It is actually a time travel that Sam has been able to undertake and accomplish. We are never told. That's why I call this an open-ended story. But then intersection of time and space takes place. Now, when we open the story, as I told you, this is something that the children love to the core. They'll have all kinds of theories. And if you search in the net also, you will find that the dreams of yesteryears had actually become the reality later. What man had initially thought, Jules Verne's concept of flying, it was considered to be an illusory. It will never happen. But now man really is able to fly, of course, through aircrafts and other things. But otherwise also so many things like submarines and even all those war weapons which are able to reach out to far and mighty areas and the mass destructions. These were unthought of ideas. Even the basic concept of pressure cooker, we are told that it was actually a party where they did not really believe that it was possible. But then it did happen. So today we are not agreeing it. The children will be definitely trying to impress upon you that later on, another 200 years or so, or maybe even before that, it will be possible for us to travel in a speed which is greater than that of the light, and we will be able to go back into the past or even sometimes into the future. But then we won't be able to make any kind of changes over there. That's what they will try to say. On the whole, this is a story for them that they take up from their fantasy angle. But then what we are talking about over here, that sci-fi or time machine or whatever we call it, we are actually calling it the very escapism. Because in the lesson, with that phrase, waking dream wish fulfillment, the psychiatrist says, we analyze the story from the point of view of a psychiatrist, right? Interdisciplinary subject is very, very important from this year, or rather from last year. So what is the other subject that we are taking up along with it? We are not taking fiction. We are rather taking over here psychology. That the man is a disturbed man and he's looking desperately for some kind of a solace or peace. And in order to get that elusive peace, what does he do? He tries cooking up stories and creates a fantasy world in his own. You know, that's why I would like to read up certain things. Charlie fails to cope up with the modern world, which is full of fears and worries. He just wants to escape. He takes it for reality and plans to go to Galesburg. He even exchanges his new bills. That is his currency. He had only $300, but that also he had bargained for. He's never able to find the third level. It is because the third level has existed in his fantasy only. Hence, it can be well ascertained that the third level is a medium of escape for Charlie. It is only his escapist fantasy. So this is what we need to bring it down to. It will lead to a lot of argument in the classroom. Children will say, fantasy, I'm trying to give you that. And today, people don't believe it. 200 years later, they'll believe it. So we say that, okay, since we don't believe it, anything, being the students of science and being from the era of science and technology, anything which we cannot prove, we don't accept it. So what do we take it for? We take it as some kind of a psychological deviation. The next part of it, theme. The underlying idea is torture, stress, worries, sad state of affairs. Now, this is it that we need to talk about. I'm sorry, I forgot. Its instincts and thoughts are unscientific and without rational. Human mind. That's the biggest problem. It is so complicated a machine. It has no such thing as it will react in this manner only. You know, some children in the classroom, you will find them very, very rigid about it. They will say that they would like to pursue it from the field of really that it is possible he would have gone into the time lapse. He would have gone into a different era, the psychiatrist, and Charlie should continue to look up. In that case, we need to remind them that human mind is capable of concocting anything and everything. And human mind again does not follow any kind of rationality. It's highly unscientific. Where, why, what, all these questions we cannot justify. People, they look very, very simple. They look very, very organized, systematic, but they do never ever necessarily follow a typical way of approach. Do you agree, teachers? Do you take this way? Vijay Lakshmi ma'am, what do you do with they come up with these kind of queries? I can't ask Maladviri ma'am today because she is busy in a meeting. Must be Vijay Lakshmi ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Satisfied their query. You're much ahead always of me as far as the syllabus is concerned. So you would have finished it long, long before. Tell me, how did you do this? Psychology, or did you allow them to go into the time machine?
I couldn't understand, ma'am.
Ma'am, I'm asking for this story, what do your children conclude it as? Do they
Oh,
take it as Charlie's
yes, ma'am.
psychological problem, or do they take it as something which is feasible?
Yes, ma'am. Once I discussed about this, they thought this is a treatment given by Sam to Charlie to cure him. He is giving treatment for him.
Yes,
The letter and
one
everything.
or two children of mine were also trying to come up with it. But
Like Chandramukhi movie, they just taken from the movie also. It's like maybe it's a treatment given by the psychiatrist. They informed like that, ma'am. So I thought we can take it's as you said, it's an open-ended question. We can't say yes or no. They can interrupt in many ways. Isn't it, ma'am? Am I right?
Ma'am, I do keep it open-ended, but I always tell them that whatever it is, you have to be worthy of your status of being 21st century citizens. Don't end up writing something which will be absurdly ridiculous. Now, as far as this theory is concerned, correct me if I go wrong, if at all Sam is doing this intentionally to cure him, then he cannot permanently stay in that. He has to come back, right? So when he comes back and he starts interacting with him, how will he be able to correct it? And the flip side of this situation is that now every weekend we are told not only Charlie, but along with his wife, Louisa also, they're permanently searching for the third level. Now, instead of solving the problem, it has further complicated the problem, isn't it? So will a psychiatrist ever try to do that? That's my worry.
It's science perception. I say that we have to take in this way. Time space, time travel.
I do tell them that this is something which is yet to be proven by the 21st century. But isn't it, Vijay Lakshmi ma'am, this is where the children are the most vocal and they try to give their own viewpoints, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. They are coming with lot of answers.
They come with lot of answers, and to bring some kind of a sanity over there is very difficult because they get swayed by their emotions, their own fantasy by their own colorings. That's the problem. Comparatively, the Tiger King is easier. They understand the sarcasm over there.
Yeah, ma'am.
And, that how they have ruined the flora and fauna and ruler to take care of it. Others, you're going to have a fun time when you take it over. 1 second. Now, coming back to the point why I have intentionally picked up this lesson is to say that, first of all, the questionnaire that we see, there are going to be 3 types of questions from here, right? We have ERC questions. But for prose and poetry, while I told you based on the extract, 6 questions have to be framed. Over here, we are being told that only 4 questions have to be made. 1 mark questions, right? ERC question, 1 mark question. That means only 1 value point will be there. Such kind of an extract based questions have to be framed. Then we have 2 marks question. And that is when, and of course, for the long question answer, like 4 marks question, which has now become 5 marks question, we have the biggest trouble because children, they tend to put in their own viewpoint and it goes on and on and on, right? That's why we need to put a curve over there. And for this lesson, that's why it would be easier if we give them the exact continuity or the development of thought, the way it needs to be presented. We have to tell them that it is your 21st century ideas that should come up. That's why I give it like this. Then the title is given. Then we have, oh my God, characters. Then the summary continued, character sketch also. Over here, I have tried to underline and given them the adjectives and tried to help them with all the major points that they are going to write. Of course, they will be writing with the help of 3 paragraph answers, right? 3 paragraph answers, and over there, they will be framing their own ways of justifying whatever they are writing. Now, this is one prose lesson where we have this symbolism, which is very, very important a question. And that's where we try to insert. What does it stand for? It symbolizes. Grand Central Station symbolizes something different, and the 3rd level is nothing but the utopia, are all imaginary, the sense of perfection. We all have an image of a perfect world, and that perfect world is somewhere in the past because it was very, very simple and clutter free. There's no chaos, there's no confusion. It is amazingly peaceful and tranquil a world, and that's what makes the 3rd level everybody's desired utopia. That's what we are saying. And finally, the Grand Central Station and the reality check. Now, reality check is again important. The 3rd level is the creation of Charlie's own mind, fantasy, and will. He's inhabiting in the modern world, which is full of insecurity, fear, war, worries, stress, and tension. He has to confront them round the clock. The 3rd level refers to the Grand Central Station subway, which carries passengers to Galesburg, Illinois. The station's 3rd stage was a means of relief from the harsh realities of everyday life for Charlie, the narrator. It provided him with a foundation where fantasy and reality could be interwoven. That's what it is. This is something we tell the children. See, sitting over here, you people know for yourself, children, you have got distracted. You have gone into a different world of yours where you have taken refuge many a times whenever things have gone out of your hands. That is human nature. They all have that kind of an alternate world. Over here, we call it the 3rd world. Okay, or the 3rd level. This is what we have tried to tell them through this. Now, teachers, I'll take you through why and wherefore of other things. As I told you today, I changed the complete pattern over here. I didn't want you. After this, I'll show you the questions as well. How to frame it over here. Now, what are the lessons we have from the vistas? That's what I have taken. Over here, as we said, to comprehension, interpretation, analysis, appreciation, the same as everything. So in-depth understanding is very essential. And of course, the image, the time machine, the famous movie, and how it looked. 42 Grand Central, it actually exists, New York railway station, and this is that pre-reading. Valli ma'am, will you read it for me today?
Yeah, sure, ma'am.
Thank you so much, sweetheart.
Pre-reading. Escapism is mental diversion from unpleasant or boring aspects of daily life, typically through activities involving imagination or entertainment. Escapism may be used to occupy oneself away from persistent feelings of depression or general sadness. Freud, shall I continue? ma'am?
Freud.
Freud considers a quarter of escapist fantasy a necessary element in the life of humans. They cannot subsist on the scanty satisfaction they can extract from reality. We simply cannot do without auxiliary constructions. The Order Fontaine, am I right, ma'am?
Yes,
The
exactly. Two famous
Order
psychologists.
Theodore Fontaine once said his followers saw rest and wish fulfillment in small measures as useful tools in adjusting to traumatic upset, while later psychologists have highlighted the role of vicarious distractions in shifting unwanted moods, especially anger and sadness.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
we
Yes.
are talking about this escapist attitude of modern man. And because of which he is always in a hyper tensed moment. And he goes over to these kind of a subterfuge. This is what we call it. Freud and Fontaine, these are the stalwarts in the field of psychology. And they have also accepted that escapism is very, very common, and it has become increasingly a malady in the modern man. This is a disease from which the modern man, little bit or sometimes as acute as Charlie, they do suffer from, because it is impossible to survive like this in this modern world. Right. With these kind of understanding, we started over. Then we go over necessarily to the kind of stories that we have under the topic. And of course, who can forget? We all in our master degree have studied H.G. Wells's The Time Machine, right? So the time machine is from where we can start. You know, as I told you, the third level, when we are teaching, in the beginning itself, the moment we are talking about time travel, they will come up with this story also. And they have this series of movies that they have watched. They are ready to mention a few in Tamil as well. You just ask them. I am not able to relate to them, but when you people ask, I'm sure you people will be able to get a full quota of fun over there, the way they are talking about it. And so there is time travel. The story books are there. Then all these books. And this is the third one, is a very, very interesting piece of writing which had come up some 2 or 3 years before. It was told that a man from 2056 has arrived in New York. The man was claiming to be from the year 2056. And it was going around. I mean, if you had seen the net, it had become quite viral in news. And then this man, actually, he had been arrested for some crime. And then he was proclaiming that he wasn't aware of the rules and regulations because he happened to be from the year 2056. He could tell it so convincingly that the media had got really interested. So I have taken that clip also, because some people, you know, they have the flair to remember all these kind of stories. Namaste, Mallika ma'am.
Yeah, namaste. Very interesting to know about this one. Nice way of escaping, I think.
Exactly, ma'am. That's the theme around which the story has been built. So, see, all of us are talking about escaping. So this is what we have to tell the children at the end of the day, if at all they are attempting the long question answer. Teachers, Vijayalakshmi ma'am, we were discussing no open-ended story. Open-ended story, we agree. For the short question answers also, we are accepting it that if they are trying to put both the viewpoints, that it's either a fantasy or it is a necessary truth, which is going to be in another 200 years' time. But the moment we come over to the long question answer, in the concluding part, they have to touch upon the psychological aberration or deviation, because that's how we have been trained to accept it. Okay, Vijayalakshmi ma'am, that's what I guess
Yes,
you.
ma'am. Sure, sure. You're right, ma'am.
Yes, because in the evaluation centers in the camp, I have seen that it is better to. That is how we have been evaluating year after year the story from the scientific angle at the end. Right. So for that reason, I have to give to the children all these stories. I'm sorry. Now we come over from there to psychoanalysis. For this, that's why I took you to my PPT and I had to tell you why am I calling this necessarily an interdisciplinary subject of psychology which needs to be taken. So waking dream, wish fulfillment moment. These are the precise words used by the psychiatrist in the story called Sam. Though by the end of the story, we are being told Sam has disappeared. Sam is not traceable. And again, we are told Sam, he guesses, or rather he is very much assured that Sam has landed up in 1894. But then Sam, it's very difficult. Those with scientific temperament, analytical attitude, they cannot be fooled so easily. And you heard myself and Vijayalakshmi ma'am saying that children come up with other novel perspective that this was Sam's doing. He was intentionally trying to impress upon him so that he comes out of it. But that doesn't work. The situation has become even more complicated. So we come back to what we had done. We had seen all these slides. Theme, which talks about it, symbolism, that it is our utopia. Each one of us are residing. We have our own third level into which we often go and take shelter. Whenever it becomes very, very claustrophobic, whenever it becomes very difficult for us, there is a human tendency to take a quick escape route and land up in that perfect world, whichever we have imagined to be. Right? So that's what we will be telling them. The third level is everybody's utopia. And the grand central is nothing but modern world, where there are too many networking, too much of complications in our personal lives in the modern times that has been equated. Those of you who have read the story, you will remember that's why the Grand Central Station, he mentions in the beginning that it has been growing like a tree. And it's constantly growing and growing and growing. So that's what when we step into our own cities also, we find it dug here, dug there, metro coming up, that flyover coming there, this, that. It's hyper action at its fullest. And whenever these kind of things are happening, it is actually putting us into some kind of a reclusive mood. This is how the story has to be done. I am very, very sure as to why I have picked it up of all the stories. Let me take you back again. I wish there were others to justify, but I have Vijayalakshmi ma'am with me. Vijayalakshmi ma'am, the Tiger King is very straightforward, right?
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Absolutely, it's a fun story for them.
Yes.
They are really enjoying it, and even you will enjoy at times why it is at all.
Story, but how the politicians, the modern politicians, or that we can compare with this story.
Absolutely. Anybody, ma'am, even for that matter, every time I compare with Salman Khan and all those Bollywood stars who went over into killing
hunting
all those animals over there, and the case has been dragging on for so many decades now. Right, ma'am? So the flora and fauna need to be protected instead of killing them over. Journey to the end of
and the rules for the
Sorry, ma'am, you're not audible. Please go ahead.
and the rules for the people in forest different from the common people. That also we can say. Ma'am? Can you hear me, ma'am?
Yes.
No, the rules for the common people and the people in power is different. The people in power, they can do anything, but the common people, they can't.
They can't. Absolutely. It's a saga of today's times as well. How today also we are suffering. Modern man, the common man, every time he is getting the Tiger King story, the children they'll enjoy it, and it gets over very quickly. The sarcasm bit of it, the fun, the humor, they are very quick to understand. Journey to the End of the Earth is also very straightforward. The enemy is again a beautiful Pearl's Buck. I'm sure you all loved her writings, Nobel Prize winner again, and the way she expresses, particularly because she had always taken China or Japan as the very base and the background of all her stories, because she had resided in this part of the world for so long. It is very easy to relate with the customs that she relates over there. After all, it's Asia. So we find it easy to understand. The Enemy is a beautiful story, again, on what we did in the poetry, peace and universal brotherhood. Humanity should win, nothing else. Straightforward story. On the face of it, beautiful again. That how on the face, apparently something looks different, but deeper down it is different again. Metaphorically dead. Memories of childhood, amazing. But third level is where the children should know how to write their answers properly. You know, that's why I thought I'll just discuss with you. Particularly why? Because I remembered in one of the recent years, we had a question in the board, one long question. In between, the third level had been actually removed, but then it has been brought back again. And it was unanimously decided that whenever we are teaching this lesson to the children, we will ask them to come back with a balanced viewpoint. They have to necessarily come and analyze it, as I told you, from the point of view of actually teachers. I can show you something. Give me a minute. I would like to close this and show you something else. During that time, I got this, and this is what we take it as the ultimate. 1 minute, please. I have to close, I think, this particular one. One minute. This is what we decided at that time. I'm sure you're able to see a very brief summary of the story. The story revolves around a 31-year-old man named Charlie who experienced something weird. They can use these words. This is what CBSE has given us as the guidelines for the children to help them understand the way they have to analyze it. One day after work, coming from the subway, he reached the third level of the Grand Central Station, which doesn't actually exist. He reminisces the entire experience with his psychiatrist friend Sam. Charlie thought he experienced time travel and had reached somewhere in the 1890s, a time before the world saw two of its most deadly wars, that is World War I and II. As soon as he realized what time he is in, he immediately decided to buy 2 tickets to Gainsbourg. This is what he did. One for himself and the other for his wife. This is what the protagonist is doing. Unfortunately, the currency used in that century was different. Thus, the next day, he withdrew all his savings and got them converted, even if it meant bearing losses. Because for $300, he actually ended up getting $200, a premium amount he had to pay. Because it is expensive to get sometimes old artifacts. And then he justifies it also very nicely. He says the cost of living in 1800 will be very less. So with 200 itself, I can manage everything. So nothing to worry. He went looking for the third level, but failed to find it. It worried his wife and the psychiatrist Sam, who told him that he is hallucinating in order to take refuge from reality and miseries of the modern world, which is full of worry. Charles thus resorts to his stamp collection in order to distract himself. When suddenly one day, he finds a letter from his friend Sam, who has gone missing recently. Sam wrote that he always wanted to believe in the idea of third level, and now that he is there himself, he encourages Charlie and Louisa to never stop looking for it. This is how the story abruptly ends. But then this is where we expect the children also to go through it. Vijayalakshmi ma'am, did you get this which had been going around with all the teachers?
No, I didn't get this, ma'am.
This is what we have always been given by our senior teachers somewhere. Always that this is what you can.
Possible, please send it in the group, ma'am. I will take.
Okay. Nothing important, ma'am. That line that you are towing, it's the same thing only.
Yeah, we have some materials. I will refer this also, ma'am.
Okay. I'll spread.
Yes.
This is another one which can become important. You have read adventure, but this year they don't have adventure, nor did they have last year. The years they had adventure in class 11, we would necessarily prepare them with this story also. And at least once we would test them on it. I told you intersection of time and space, which is a commonly, rather a recurrent question over here. This is what we try to justify with. Apparent illogicality sometimes turns out to be a futuristic projection. This is what the children love. Wright brothers invented the first airplane. Nobody could have dared to believe that man could fly. Before Alexander Graham Bell invented the telephone, it would have been impossible to believe in long distance talks happening in the real-time interface. Moreover, there are examples of inventions like that of inventing a modern day sewing machine with a needle that has hole on its wrong end, which were conceived in dreams, but now are part of our everyday reality. All this emphasizes that fantasies of one point of time that seem illogical may turn out to be revolutionary things that change the future of the mankind. Now, why do we give this question? If at all this kind of question comes, they will definitely mention this as one of the aspects over there. Otherwise, they're doing wrong. Only in the case of this kind of a question, they are allowed to put it and say that, yes, today it looks stupid, weird, illogical, irrational, but then history has told us. The history of mankind has proven that what has been laughed at in one century, a century or two later, that itself has become the very reality. So this also we should get the children acquainted with. We cannot really tell them that it is one-sided psychological aberration. Maybe, but until then, we cannot really buy the theory. That's what I'm trying to say. This is what the teachers use it, NCERT solutions and other things with that. This is usually what the city teachers in Chennai, we actually circulate, and we have it with us as the simplest way to help the children understand the storyline. Okay. Okay, and one more thing. For this lesson, these are the, oh no, you won't get to see it. I would like to show from here one specific question again. This is the refresher material that we take, or the guide as you call it. This is what we actually take. There are series of questions over here. Do you think that the third level was a medium of escape for Charlie? Why? We say that it was a medium of escape. Okay, we don't say, we just corroborate it with all. But from here, teachers, all said and done, I may be wrong, but I usually, or rather, I certainly do insist upon my children, if there is any long question, unless and until it is very clear cut, you should go for the or question. For short questions, I allow them. I prepare them with all kinds of short questions. As you can see, some 26 are over here, which I have given them. Another few, I have it with me as well. In fact, I have got it, the questions, 1 minute. Too many files are open.
How will you share all these with your children, ma'am?
Ma'am, they have teens still with them, ma'am. Earlier, we used to give it to them as Xerox copies. Right now, they still have access to Teams. So anything that has to be given to them as materials, we upload it in the Teams and they get it from there. Are you able to hear me? Because
Yes,
my
ma'am.
internet connection is again unstable.
Yes,
It is.
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Yes.
ma'am.
We can hear, ma'am. We can hear.
Teachers, can you see these are the kind of commonly asked questions which I have taken up, because this is a tricky little lesson which is not one-sided, and whereby we want specific kind of answers. I have tried to bring it over here like this. Oh my God, the spelling is wrong here. Anyway, I'll do the corrections later. What does the third level refer to? What is the significance of the third level? This is how the board questions have been asked many times. What convinced Charlie that he had reached the third level at Grand Central Station and not the second level? How does Charlie, the narrator, describe the third level at Grand Central Station? How did Charlie make sure that he was not in the present time? How did Charlie often get lost on the Grand Central Station? Why did Charlie suspect that Sam had gone to Galesburg? How does Charlie describe Galesburg as it used to be in 1894? And what did Charlie learn about Sam from the stamp and coin store? How did Sam reach Galesburg? What did he advise Charlie to do? You know, another reference that is given over there about the modern world, along with all these things, by painting the time in 1894 for the DAV questionnaire, if you see, we always, keep it a little different. Yes, Vijay Lakshmi miss, speak out. You're trying to say something to me. Vijay
Sorry,
Lakshmi
ma'am.
ma'am?
No, nothing, ma'am. Nothing, ma'am. It happened by mistake.
No, you can speak. So what I was trying to tell you. Hello? Yes? No. What another question can be framed is that how does the modern world look like as portrayed by Jack Finney in the story, The Third Level? We are saying there is stress, there is worry, there is uncertainty, along with everything else. Whenever he's talking about it, he is giving the contrast, and also the way he says at the end of it that Sam will have to go for the profession of a farmer and he cannot do whatever he was doing over here. Now that question is asked as a short question. But short question, why? Because we all know he was a psychiatrist, and his justification is that because there is no need for just a psychiatrist in 1894. Life is pretty simple, uncomplicated, clutter-free. So the psychiatrist profession is not there. And more so, if we also scientifically speak about, psychiatry was at its very genesis at that time. It hadn't taken its root so much. But if we take it differently, we can always say that people didn't have to go to a psychiatrist to sort out their psychological issues, because it's only the modern man with the fast-paced life, with the rat race and the competition and the strife and the uncertainty, has only the need for it. So not only do we ask them to portray the life in 1894, we also ask them to portray the modern world through the eyes of Charlie as seen in the lesson, The Third Level. That is another important question. I don't know why I never wrote that. Maybe because it is for us that we have it. Why did the booking clerk refuse to accept the money? Why did Charlie rush back from the third level? Do you see an intersection of time and space in the story? I also give them, this is what is the meaning of waking dream wish fulfillment? And these kind of things. Vijay Lakshmi ma'am will remember how feverishly we had to work in 1 year. Ma'am, you remember how we had to work all these things? There was no material available and we had to single-handedly come up with all these things.